Hi, for math, we're going to do some more three-digit subtraction. We'll practice again using addition to check our answer. And then we're going to also work some on word problems that they are purposefully leaving. They're putting in too much information that you don't need for solving the problem. We're going to work on some of those together as well. I'm glad that we're getting extra repetitions of this. Subtraction, addition to check it, reading word problems and figuring out which parts are important. The best way to strengthen your math brain is just repetition. You repeat and repeat and repeat till you start having things memorized that you look at it and calculate it without even realizing, because your math brain is getting stronger. That is true with subtraction, addition. It's also true with multiplication. That's why we're practicing some skip counting, because that puts you that much closer to being able to multiply. And everybody everywhere has to practice and practice and practice till they memorize it, okay? So it's good that we're getting another chance to do some three-digit subtraction. We're going to work on the first two together. This is from your work for today, which is page 217 and 218. 217 and 218 is what you're going to do for your homework today. So I'll do the first two together with you. Let's do them. We're going to rename if needed. So we might not have to. We don't know till we're going to start the problem. If it's not needed, we'll just subtract. If we need to rename, then we'll go to the next column and get what we need from there, okay? Let's start. We always start in the ones column because we never know what's going to happen. If we start there, we can have correct answers all the way across, okay? So starting in the ones column, we say 9 minus 3. Can we do that without renaming? Yes, we can, all right? We just say 9 minus 3 is 6. And then right here we have 0 minus 9. Now, can you take 9 away from 0? You can't. So we're going to have to do some renaming. We'll go over here into the hundreds column, and we'll have to take one from here. So that makes this only 6. We'll put that one right here. What is 10 minus 9? We can take 9 away from 10, can't we? And our answer is 1. Now we're to the hundreds column. 6 minus 2 is 4. Is that right? Well, to find out if we're correct, we can add this to this. And if our final answer is this number here that we started with, then we got it right. Okay, so let's try that. Let's take 416 plus 293 and find out if this answer is the same as this number that we started with, then we'll know that we did our math correctly. 6 plus 3 is 9. 1 plus 9 is 10. That can't fit all in this column, so we'll put the 0 and put the 1 over here, rename it into the hundreds. 1 plus 4 plus 2 is 7. So is this the same as what we started with over here? It is, and that means our math is correct. Okay, let's do number 2. This is on your worksheet, so if you have it out in front of you, you can get started already on your work. 2 minus 3. So right away we can see that that's not possible. You can't take 3 away from this. Can you take 3 away from that? No. So we're going to need to go to the tens and take 1 from it. We'll rename it. Now we have a 12. 12 minus 3. Now we can do that, can't we? 12 minus 3 is 9. 6 minus 1 is 5. And 3 minus 1 is 2. I wonder if that's correct. Let's add to check our work. We'll take 259, add it to 113. 9 plus 3 is 12. We'll put the 2 there and rename our 1 right here into the ones or the tens column. 1 plus 5 plus 1 is 7. 2 plus 1 is 3. Now is our answer here the same as the number that we started with here? It is. And that means we did our math correctly. Now you have 4 more of these, I think. We have several more of these on the front and the back. I want you to work through just this same way, okay? Let's look at number 5 on your worksheet. It's a word problem. I'm going to read it to you. The instructions say, cross out unneeded information, solve, and complete the sentence. All right, so they have 2 spaces for you to write down how you're going to solve it. I'll show you that in just a minute. First, let's read, and while you're reading, think about which part of this information is unneeded to find the answer. All right? The first baobab tree Matt and Patty saw is 792 years old. They went 23 miles. The next baobab tree they saw is 803 years old. How much older is the second tree than the first? Okay, so now you hear the how much older than. That means lets us know we're going to use a subtraction problem. But given all that information, there were numbers. There were 3 sentences with numbers in it, but only 2 of the numbers matter to us. Okay, let's notice it. It said that one tree is 792 years old. They traveled 23 miles. The other tree is 803 years old. And how much older is the second tree than the first? Okay, so the unnecessary information is this sentence. They went 23 miles. You're going to find that sentence in your word problem and just cross it out. That's not numbers that you need for your word problem. Sometimes, if you're feeling you're in a hurry or you're just trying to go quick, you might look at a word problem, just kind of gather the numbers out of those words and try to do something with them. You can't do that. You have to pay attention to the details because they want you to find the sentence, the information that doesn't belong, that doesn't help you. The information that does help us is 803 years old and 792 years old. How much older is the second tree than the first? And they have room on there for you to write this problem in 2 different ways. To write it across this way or up and down like this. Now, I always feel like lining it up is a simpler way to keep track of what you're doing and start in the ones column and all of that, right? So we'll say 3 minus 2, that equals 1. 0 minus 9, that's not possible. So we'll go next door to rename this as a 10, all right? 10 minus 9 equals 1. 7 minus 7 is nothing. So this sentence that they have there, the second tree is blank years older. You'll just fill that in with 11. The second tree is 11 years older than the first. Okay? You have 2 more of those that you'll solve in that way. Read it carefully. Cross out the information that isn't needed. And notice number 6 ends with a how many years older. It's an asking the difference. So number 6 is going to be subtraction. But on the back, your word problem says how many now live. So it's like all together. So that problem is going to be addition. All right. So notice all the details while you read it. I want you to notice the details. The back of your worksheet also has a little review about measurement amounts. And when you get to that part, if you want to maybe look in your kitchen, if you can't remember the different amounts and what they represent, cup, gallon, those, you can look in your kitchen. I bet you can find a cup measurement, and milk, when it's in its biggest container, that's a gallon. So if you need to be reminded, look in your kitchen and you'll find some hints as to that. So your math today is worksheet 217, 218. You're going to do some more 3-digit subtraction. You're going to do some word problems where they put in information that is not needed, and you're going to look for it and mark that out. You'll review a little bit of measurement, liquid measurements, and you're gonna do a great job. Welcome to science. Today we're going to start a brand new science chapter called How Things Move. It's chapter 11, okay? You guys did great on your chapter 10 science quiz. I really loved studying all that about how matter changes, and now we get to study another interesting thing, how things move, okay? I have my science assistant, Harper, with me today. Before we get started, I want to do a little work here in our classroom / studio. Harper, I don't like that chair there. Could you push it a little bit that way? Push it a little. No, that's not right either. Okay, can you pull it more? Pull it towards me a little. Pull it. No, now. Push it this way. Push forward a little. Now, can you pull it back? Pull it back. Push it forward. Now try that. How's that feel? Okay, didn't Assistant Harper do a good job putting this chair into motion? Yes, she did. And she used her force to put it into motion, okay? So when you're reading your science textbook later, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about Harper pushing and pulling the chair around the room, okay? Also, could you choose a book from the bookshelf for me, please? Choosing one. Very interesting choice. Now, can you open the pages? Good job. Now, notice every movement that Harper makes. How is she making this book move? Do you notice? Watch. So now can you put it back on the shelf? What about here? She pushes it back on the shelf. When she wanted to look at it, what did you do to get it off the shelf? Pulled it off the shelf. And how about open? Pushed it open. Okay, that's a lot of interesting movement, isn't it? Okay, I want you today to read in your science textbook pages 162 to 166. While you read, you're going to notice some bold print words. I want you to be looking for them. When you read and you see a bold print word, I want you to underline it. And not just the bold print word, I also want you to underline its definition. You're going to need to look for it right. It will either be in the same sentence as where the word is first mentioned, or it will be in the very next one. So pay attention and make sure you get the word and its definition underlined as you read, okay? When you have completed doing your reading, I want you to get out your science textbook, or your science work text, activity manual, I think it's called. And I want you to take out page 137 and 138. 137 gives you a chance to just kind of have a preview of what we're going to be learning about, give you a sneak peek, if you will, to some of the things we'll be talking about. So just make a guess. It literally wants you to either say, yes, I know this word already, or I'm not sure, but I can make a guess of what it means, okay? And then the back side of it, 138, gives you a bunch of different options of types of movement, and you're gonna write down what kind of force is making that movement happen, okay? And as we continue to study chapter 11, we'll be looking at different ways to learn these concepts, to maybe demonstrate some of them. I'll try to think of ways that I could have my assistant help me and we could demonstrate some of these things. Sometimes when we can see them in action, it helps us remember them better once it's time to take the quizzes, right? So I would like you to read in your textbook, underline the bold print words with their definition. That will help you do your worksheet, page 137 and 138. This week we're going to work on spelling. We didn't do that last week, but we're ready to reintroduce that into our homework this week. I want to introduce you to your spelling list. List 25. I wrote some of your words here. I just ran out of room to get them all on here because I want you to notice the pattern that your words this week follow. What do you notice when you look at these with me? Notice I tried to line them all up where certain letters were next to each other. Do you see this ending to all of them? L-E, L-E, L-E. That's what they all end in. And just before the L-E, what do you notice in all these words? Do you notice those? There's double consonants, okay? And the vowel sounds of all of these are short, okay? So there's lots of repeating in the pattern of these words. Little, juggle, giggle, middle, bubble, battle, all of these have a short vowel, double consonant, and then they end in an L-E. So I want you to think about that while you're doing your worksheets, while you're practicing filling in the blank and working on these spelling words. I want you to think about every time, notice the pattern. Short vowel, double consonants, and then ends in an L-E. And if you really pay attention to the pattern, that's going to help you as you're memorizing your spelling words this week. Now, then you have some review words, words that we've memorized before for spelling words. Then you have some words that you're going to have to memorize. They're number words. So we were going to write the word for these numbers. 4, 8, and 7. All right. We have pattern words, some review words, and your memory words. Today, I would like you to complete page 98 in your spelling book. All right, today we're going to talk about adjectives, some more in English. We've talked about a bunch of different kinds of adjectives, and we've talked a lot about how just they make everything more colorful and interesting, and there are a lot of different options you can use when you're putting in an adjective. An adjective is a word that describes a noun. So it just gives more information. It can answer what kind, how many. It can compare to nouns, right? I have my assistant with me again today for English. Harper and I really love coming up with this particular kind of adjective. Whenever we have one adjective in mind, but we want to make it even better, we want something that's similar but has a little bit of a different sound, we look for something called a synonym, okay? A synonym is a word that has the same meaning or almost the same meaning, but it's a new word. So let's look at this sentence. Let's read that. Harper, can you read that out to us?
Dogman catches bad cats.
Okay. Dogman catches bad cats. What's the adjective in this sentence? It's the word that describes this noun, right? Cats.
Yeah.
So our adjective here is bad. It's not an especially interesting adjective. It works. What if we wanted to be about the same, but maybe we want it to sound more colorful or more interesting? Here's a couple of options. Which of these options, lovely or evil, makes sense to be the synonym, a word that means the same or almost the same thing? Which one, Harper?
Evil.
Evil. Evil is your best synonym here. So, and Dogman catches evil cats. That works, doesn't it? All right, let's look at this one. Harper, read it to us.
Pikachu battles smart Mewtwo.
Pikachu battles smart Mewtwo. Okay, so which one of those is our adjective?
Since smart describes Mewtwo, then it would be smart.
Smart. Mewtwo is the noun. Noun, person, place, or thing. Smart is the adjective. And that works fine. But what if we've already used the word smart several times and we're writing an essay or something and we want to make it more interesting? We'd want to think of a synonym. Of these two synonyms, which one, or of these two options, only one of them is a synonym. A synonym is a word that means the same or almost the same. We have clever or gross. Harper, which one do you think is the synonym to smart?
Clever.
Clever. Okay. Clever. Pikachu. So you could also say Pikachu battles clever Mewtwo. Okay. One of the ways that you can find a synonym, and this is something Harper and I really enjoy doing when we're working on English. If she ever has a project that requires this, is use the
Thesaurus.
The thesaurus. Okay. It's you just think of a word, and when you look it up, it will give you all these other options of words that mean the same or almost the same thing. So here we have a sentence. Rapunzel is a good princess. So true, right? Rapunzel is a good princess. But what if we want a different adjective? Something maybe a little more colorful or a little more interesting. Harper opened the thesaurus and looked up the word good. Now tell me some of the options of a synonym for good.
Admirable.
Admirable.
Exceptional.
Exceptional.
Honorable.
Honorable. I like these.
Marvelous.
Marvelous. Okay, so here are some options. Honorable, marvelous, exceptional. I like those. Why don't we go with marvelous? Because I just like the way it sounds. Marvelous.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. Rapunzel is a marvelous princess. Marvelous is our adjective. It's describing princess, telling us what kind. What kind of princess is Rapunzel? A marvelous princess. Okay? So these are all ways to do an adjective, make it maybe even more colorful or interesting to find their synonym, right? So in your worksheet today, which is 243 and 244, you will be doing more of that, finding the synonym for various adjectives. You will be drawing a box around the adjectives, then finding synonyms that go with it. And you might want to look around your house and see if you have a thesaurus. If you don't have a paper thesaurus, your grown-up can look up a thesaurus on their phone. We do that sometimes because sometimes we can't find this one. And so if you have any word that you're just trying to think of a better synonym for, or just want to know more words that mean the same thing, have your grown-up look up a certain word for you and give you some options of another adjective that you could add in. All right? So you're going to do page 243 and 244 about colorful adjectives. We're going to do reading, so you're going to need to have your reading book with you, with you right now. We'll read together. Our reading today is a story called Little Twigs, and it's what we are calling Act 1. Act 1. We've done this before where we've read a portion of reading that comes, it's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Do you remember what that's called whenever we read it and it's divided up like that? Whenever we read it that way, it's a play. All right? So now this is fun when we have done it in class before because everyone's taken turns being the different characters. And in this case, it will be me reading it to you, but I would like you to follow along with me as we read and imagine what's happening if you were watching this as a play taking place. The different characters and the setting and the scene of it. Okay, it's called Little Twigs, and today we'll read Act 1. This is a 2-act play. Act 1, Act 2. The main characters are 2 young beavers named Billy and Chester. The setting is kind of a woodland place with a river and a dam. So you can imagine all of that. You can look at the pictures there in your book to give you kind of the setting and the sense of what it's like. We have some vocabulary words that we'll come across while we're reading Act 1. I want you to be paying attention for them, okay? You might want to underline them as we come to them. We have cousins, extra, spurted, struggled, wedged, right? Cousins, it's like a family member. It is the children of your aunt or your uncle. Cousins. Extra. I'll read you a sentence and see if you can tell what extra means. If the teacher has an extra pencil for the class, does she have more pencils than she needs or not enough pencils? Extra means she has more than she needs. How about spurted? Spurted is a good word, a vivid verb, okay? If orange juice spurted onto your shirt, now is your shirt clean or dirty? Oh, it's dirty because orange juice spurted onto it. You can imagine that juice spurting out of a fruit or toothpaste spurting out of a tube. It's like kind of splashing out, a little bit like splashing, okay? Struggled. If a colt struggled to walk, was it hard or was it easy? Struggled. Struggled is something that's hard. Trying hard to get it to work. If the boy wedged a rock into a hole, is the rock tight or loose? Wedged a rock into a hole. That word means tight. It's like push it tightly in, okay? So you can see in your book the setting, a river, a woodland place, and the beavers. This is written, this drama, these characters for this play is taken from a fable, a story, a made-up story with animals as the main character. Okay. And your listening question as we read Act 1 is this: are little twigs important? Let's read together. Act 1. Imagine this is the setting. 2 beaver cousins playing beside a beaver dam in a small pond. Narrator. One afternoon, 2 young beaver cousins were playing beside the beaver dam. Chester, the larger beaver cousin, tugged at a twig in the dam. It came out easily, and the beaver toppled over. Chester. 5. That makes 5 for me. What do you have? Only 2. Billy. Here's 1. You'll have to give me extra points if I get this one. Narrator. Billy, the smaller beaver, bit into a smooth sapling that was wedged into the dam. He pulled hard until his paws kicked up muddy water. Chester. I'll have to help you. You're too little to work that one loose. Billy. No, you don't, cousin. You just want to take my points. Narrator. Suddenly, Grandmother Beaver appeared on the top of the dam. She did not look happy. Grandmother. Here now, what are you 2 doing? Narrator. Grandmother tapped her tail on the logs, waiting for a reply. The 2 beaver cousins looked down at their paws. Grandmother. I see little sticks floating in the water, don't I? Pulling sticks from the dam is not a game. Every piece is important. Your father and grandfather know where every log and branch is. Do you want our dam to break and the lodge to fall in around our ears? Narrator. Chester and Billy shook their heads, but they did not look up. After a while, Grandmother went back inside. Turn the page. Now we're on page 120. Billy. What shall we do now? Narrator. Chester smiled a sideways smile. Chester said, let's try to get that twig you were working on. Billy. No, we can't. Chester. Come on, you little twig tail. It won't hurt anything. Narrator. Billy did not like to have anyone make fun of his tail, which had not grown much yet. He watched as Chester splashed into the water and began to tug at the sapling. Billy thought for a minute. Then he joined Chester. The 2 cousins got to laughing and splashing so much. Soon they forgot what Grandmother had said. Together they pulled the sapling until it wiggled. They pulled a little harder and it began to give way. Chester. Almost. Narrator. Then a stream of water spurted out from beside the sapling. Billy, eyes opened wide with surprise. Oh no! Chester, looking frightened. Quick, push it back in, hurry! Narrator. Chester and Billy struggled against the growing stream of water. The sapling seemed to have come out easier than it was going back in. The water ran over Billy until he thought he must have gone underwater altogether, and suddenly the water stopped. Chester. Got it. Whew. Narrator. Chester and Billy both examined the dam. Everything looked safe again. Chester. Don't tell anyone about this. Not if you know what's good for you. Narrator. Billy nodded. His eyes were still wide from all the excitement. Okay, so that's the end of Act 1. What game are Billy and Chester playing? They seem to be playing a game, maybe that sounds like something they made up themselves, maybe. They are earning points by pulling sticks out of the dam. And why should Billy and Chester stop playing that game? Think about that from the play. Why should they stop doing that game? Well, it isn't safe to pull out the sticks since it could break down their lodge, their beaver home. Why does Chester make fun of Billy and threaten him? Why do you think he does that? Chester is trying to get Billy to do what he wants him to do, help him pull out the sapling, and then he wants him to not tell anyone what they did. Okay? So he teases him to get him to do what he wants, and then he threatens him to make sure he doesn't tell. What type of choices do you see Billy making in this story? Think about that. With his cousin, he's not making great choices, right? He disobeyed what the grandmother said by continuing to play the game of pulling out the sticks, even after she said that's not safe. And he agrees when Chester says, oh, don't tell anybody what we did. Okay? So that's Act 1. We'll get to find out what happens next in Act 2. Here's your new vocabulary words. We read this together. You're welcome to look at it again when you're doing your comprehension page for your work text. It's 309 to 310 in your workbook. All right. I want you to think about, you're going to read several sections and be able to think of, are these little stories that I'm reading on my worksheet, are they reality or are they fantasy? Okay. And then you're going to work on the other side of your reading page will be about abbreviations, which we've practiced quite a bit. So you'll be doing some thinking about what different types of reading you might be doing and genres, whether they're reality or fantasy, and you'll be doing some work on abbreviations.